Hello and welcome everyone, this is Madals and this is game number 1. The best of one. It is going to be a Z versus a T. Good times, no doubt about it. Coming out on Star Station and spawning in the bottom right position as the red Zerg. While in this game was playing for Rude, he now plays for my insanity. It is Kane. And his opponent up in the top left from Evil Geniuses, the blue Terran player, DeMusliM. Who may, being a fellow Brit, be secretly in my heart as who to cheer for. But then, of course, being good friends with Penguin, I've got to sit there and be like, do I root for the My Insanity player or do I root for the UK player? I just don't know. Does DeMusliM even count as being UK anymore after that fatal day when MLG decided to make him American? I just don't know anymore. In my heart, I felt so betrayed that day. Anyway, this should be pretty good fun. Kane, I believe, is American, if I'm not mistaken, actually. So, they both live in the US of A, and, yeah, being ZVT, this should be quite a fun game. Probably going to see a hatch first out of Kane, unless something crazy happens. DeMusliM, by the fact that he's pulled back that SCV, I'm expecting to see a command center first opening. That's really the big tell you can get. If the SCV stays, it's obviously going to be a barracks, but if the SCV gets pulled back, well, then it's probably going to be a command center just trying to get that extra mineral income out as quickly as possible. There's nothing else you can spend this many minerals on at this stage in the game, unless you were going for some kind of weird proxy timing, but that's unlikely. Probably just going to be a CC first, which up against Zerg is safe to do. Personally, I'm a fan of getting the command center as part of the wall off. It's just a little bit safer, and by the looks of things, DeMusliM is also a fan of that, so he's going to be chucking down up here on the high ground there, just in case there's any early pulls. This is, of course, Star Station, and I believe it's forced cross spawns. Judging by the positioning of the overlords, the players do too, so it could have been some early pull action, but generally, that's not super common. Following up the command center first into that barracks, very normal stuff there. We should be seeing some gases get taken in the near future, but not rushed down. Meanwhile, over on Kane's side, he's busy getting down that spawning pool, getting things going fairly nicely, fairly happily, and just chilling along in the old normal ways. So, Kane, he's also just going to come and check round to the edge of his base, just in case there's any Reapers coming up, because let's face it, this map is designed for Reapers. Look at all this cliff area. All of this area is places Reapers can bounce up and down, get in and out of your base, and just be a general nuisance. So it's always good to try and keep a solid lookout, make sure there's no proxies or anything like that. DeMusliM does have a refinery coming down there, so he is getting his first little trickle of gas income. The gases for Kane, he should be seeing one come down relatively soon, unless he's going for some sort of very fast third hatchery, but considering this from his scanning information, he's yet to see anything too important. When he sees the bunker, he may assume that it's a command center first and try and get down that quick third, which is viable. Alternatively, he could just get the gas anyway, which would delay his third base slightly, but would mean that he's able to just get down zergling speed and be a little bit safer. As for which third Kane takes, he's got two options. You can take this third, which is generally the norm, or you can take the one over to the left here, which basically, this one over to the left is slightly further away from your natural, but I would also argue that it's a little easier to defend, and it also means the drop play isn't quite as effective, because if you're trying to defend here and a medevac comes in, they can just drop up into the main, into the third, and it's a little bit annoying there. So there's pros and cons to both of them. I've seen Zerg players take both, so it's just a bit of personal preference, but this is generally the more common one. If you take the one to the left, you've got to have quite good reasonings for it, and a game strategy that revolves around trying to take that base. Now, for DeMusliM, his command center, orbital command rather, is now floated down there to the natural base. The factory plus the reactor also coming down too, so he's going to be going into some helium play, just very normal. I love the fact that Kane, though, he's taken both watchtowers, so he's got great map vision. His overlord spread is going really nice, just keeping an eye out for any medevacs that could be trying to sneak their way in. Even though there's obviously no chance of any medevacs being out on the field yet, he's just playing it safe, he's playing it cautious and going, okay, well, let's just get everything in position ready, get my map control, and then nothing will take me by surprise. And as a Zerg player, you don't like getting caught by surprise, because if you just made a big wave of drones, there's nothing worse than suddenly seeing some units there that you really were not expecting. So, command center, third CC is on its way here for DeMusliM. He's getting those Hellions out too, playing it very economical for the time being. Also, still only on the one gas, so not going to be going for any too much of a tech, purely macro orientated. Kane, of course, getting his third hatchery up. Needs to be keeping an eye out. He hasn't sacrificed in an overlord yet, so in terms of vision, knows very little. Oh, no, he does! This overlord, it sees the command center. It knows. It is aware 10 Zerglings are on their way out, and this is actually quite a cool move here of going, okay, well, hang on. If DeMusliM, if he's got a third CC down that quickly, that means he doesn't have stuff to defend with. So I can be a little bit aggressive here. He also sees the Hellions kind of making their way forward, but Kane, being a baller Zerg player, as all Zerg players are, he's made 2 additional queens. So, 1, that means he gets a good creep spread. 2, it means these Hellions are a little less scary. He's also got good vision just by holding the watchtowers. He knows where they all are. He can reposition his queens just to make sure that no shenanigans start going on. We are going up to the 6 Hellions though at the moment, and 6 Hellions can be a little bit frustrating to deal with. The Zerglings are just pulling up here with the natural, with these 2 evolution chambers acting as a bit of a wall. Trying to make sure that nothing can sneak its way in there, which is definitely the right thing to be doing. You don't want to be letting units in for no apparent reason. The Queens also going to force back some Hellions too, trying to go in from round the back to get the flank on these Queens. It's going to be done quite nicely. Need to micro back the Hellions that are damaged, but in comes some Speedlings now. Are going to force back the rest of these Hellions. One goes down, a nice couple of shots on the Zerglings. Will kill quite a few. But still, the Hellions pushing in, trying to do a little bit more damage. We've got up here, of course, 1-1 upgrades, about a quarter done, as well as the Baning Nest coming down, plus the Lair about half finished. So just a very standard Zergling, Baning, Mutalisk play, going to be coming down here from Kane at the moment. Meanwhile, for DeMusliM, no, he's only now just getting his first star ball. This is really quite late, so he's not got any medevacs and hasn't for a long time. But that's really been allowing him to get up the double upgrades himself and this 3rd orbital command. Plus, start really ramping up his economy. Soon we'll be seeing a lot more in terms of just sheer production. Now, I did see a couple of Hellions kind of just chill around here, so they're just not going in, they're not being too aggressive. There's a lot of Speedlings out of 25, so with this good creep spread that's really spreading out in all angles very efficiently, DeMusliM is going to have to be very cautious about moving these Hellions in, especially with those many Speedlings. Once the 1-1's done, that's going to be quite nice. Here comes down the Spire, so as expected, it's all going pretty much to plan as we would like to see. 1-1 upgrade, slightly behind for DeMusliM, but obviously his economy is looking fairly stable too. And in terms of just sheer income, we can see that obviously Kane getting a bit more gas, but that's intentional. DeMusliM doesn't massively need it, but he is losing a little bit of minerals, which, oh, unfortunately a couple of Hellions going down here. Don't want to be seeing that going out, but yeah, that Hellion can now drop down to only 3. The Speedlings can definitely play aggressive against this. Gotta be careful just not to line up too much. Kane with the 4th on its way out. He's expanding up the right-hand side, which is quite cool. A lot of Zerg players take this 4th and then this 5th, but it just depends on which way you want to go. You can usually get the 5th pretty quickly after the 4th, just because you want a spare base in case one gets taken out. And you can usually afford to do so, especially with a good income. The Spire, though, is about to finish. The gas is starting to bank up for Kane here, so he's going to be getting some Mutalisks. He's also got the Macro Hatch, and that Macro Hatch is going to really help him ramp up his production to deal with this great economy that he's got sitting here. So Queen's still pushing forward with the creep spread, and this creep spread is going very nicely. Every avenue finding and really having to deal with basically getting solid creep spread throughout it. The creep team is advancing at a steady pace, but DeMusliM moving forward. He's got a fair chunk of units here. They got 1-1, they got Stim, and will have Combat Shield by the time these Marines get over. So it's kind of an 11-minute, 30, 12-minute push is when it's going to hit if he keeps moving forward after checking that watchtower. And he's definitely gunning for this 4th base. He's saying, well, Kane, if you want to take that, you're going to have to try and hold it, mate. And all the while behind it, taking an expansion. So, very normal stuff. Push out, expand behind, hope everything's going to be a-okay. So, in now comes these Marines. They're going to be closing down the distance, focusing out the hatchery. In come the Zerglings, though, and the Mutalisks, and the Banelings. The Banelings, if they get good connections, will be very strong. Of course, the Medevac's going to get focused out very quickly by a Mutalisk. And, well, this push is going to get pretty easily cleaned up, to be fair. And with a nice Baneling head there, all the pressure goes. The Mutalisks are not able to focus down many medevacs, only get 1 of them, so not prioritizing those as of yet. But in terms of resources lost, 10 workers have been killed so far by DeMusliM, which levels down both worker counts at 69. So that means with mules, DeMusliM does have the slightly better economy. He's also making a nice little bit of Sim City through here, just trying to make sure that he's nicely defended. That bunker would be very difficult to take out, and so with all of this, DeMusliM, he's just really ramping it up. Note he's also getting drilling claws relatively early, so Widow Mines are going to be playing an important part here. He's got the first 3 out on the field, and that push didn't go with any Widow Mines at all, so he needs those just in order to get the splash to deal with the Banelings, deal with the Zerglings, etc. But I say this is still a relatively equal game. The fact that the 4th is stayed up is really nice for Kane. He didn't want to lose that, but the 4th is now getting taken by DeMusliM, which is going to undoubtedly put some pressure on Kane to be a bit more aggressive and also look to secure up his 5th. He's got a bit of time due to having the macro hatchery there, but he still needs to make sure that actually he is keeping his economy going. And oh, that was a nice Widow Mine here. Got a lot of those Mutalisks because they were stacked up. Meanwhile, we've also got a drop here down by the 4th base, and Overseer does spot it though, so all of the Zerglings come streaming through. The Mutalisk getting pulled back. The Medevac lifts up, gonna drop down and try and pick up a couple more drones. Nice positioning here, but it's behind the mineral line. Just makes it very difficult for the Zerglings to get in. But a Baneling hit will put an end to it. The 4th base not yet mining for DeMusliM because he's busy concentrating on the fact that he's got a good number of units pushing on in. He's continuing our creep because that's now pretty much halfway across the map. Very frustrating. Drilling floor's done, so those Widow Mines burrow exceptionally fast. Meanwhile, Hive is also on its way here for Kane, so he's going to be going into those Ultralisks, getting himself much more into a normal position in the late game. Oh, nice little detonation there. Gets a couple of Zerglings, but the Medevacs will force a retreat, just due to the sheer number of Zerg units down for the time being. Zerglings trying to pick up a couple more of these mines. Got to try and get the wraparound on these Marines. Does able to get a good couple of Baneling hits down, but now pulling back, going to potentially go and look for a counterattack with all of this army out of position. But rolling back, unfortunately a Widow Mine did take a detonation from a Baneling there, which is not ideal for Kane. If you kill a Widow Mine with Banelings, it's not the most efficient way of using them, but still, with the Ultra Dent now on its way, with more Mutalisks coming out, that's going to take the Mutalisk count actually pretty damn high, up to 24. 24 Mutalisks are very aggressive, especially when there aren't any missile turrets really around at all. There's like one missile turret in the main mineral line. This bunker can just get focused down incredibly fast. The Overseer being with the army, very important, just to make sure that any Widow Mines that could be around aren't able to do too much damage. The Marines, though, getting pulled back. A Mutalisk did die, but this is forcing all of DeMusliM's army back around to the left-hand side, meaning that this 4th base is safe for Kane at the moment. So the Mutalisk harassment is just keeping things back and defensive, making sure things are safe, and there isn't too much of a risk there all around. So very, very good to see that. We also have a lot of spine crawlers coming down just to prevent against drops. Now that it's going up to 5 bases for Kane, it's difficult to defend all of these different areas from drops, so getting down some static defense just tries to ease that threat so a single medevac can't ruin your day. Now, with the Ultralisks about to start getting produced, hopefully, at least if Kane frees up supply, they'll get produced, and the 3-3 upgrades coming down. This is really like a late game composition. The big important thing for Kane, though, is he's got to free up some supply. Only one Ultralisk is not going to be that crazy. Where does he free up that supply from? Well, ideally not from the Mutalisks, because they're very expensive, unless he trades well with them. So it's just the Zerglings. He's very high on Zerglings, at 76 and those 25 Banelings, so a couple of detonations would be good. Just like those, they are really going down quite nicely. Gotta be careful, though, not to lose the Banelings unnecessarily to Widow Mines or to big infantry movements. But now, from the left-hand side, we do have a little poke to see, can I move up, can I get the engagement? But the answer is no, because DeMusliM is splitting units incredibly efficiently. High ground vision being granted by the creep. That's why coming around the back here is so strong, so these spine crawlers can start working down the Marines. One spine crawler probably going to fall, does go down, but for quite a few Marines in the process. Mutalisks, though, are at the 3rd base of DeMusliM, tearing it apart, dealing some good damage there. This is very much attack at all costs move from both players. They're busy trying to pick off each other's reinforcements as they come through. The Mutalisks need to focus down that missile turret, get it in 2 volleys. Not possible to repair that. Meanwhile, a couple of big hits, more Ultralisks getting produced. Still only the 1 on the field for the time being. The Queen can also only have 4, so not able to just mass transfuse those. Mutalisks do have to be a little bit careful up in the main. There's a good substantial number of Marines there which are able to do some damage. And there's also a drop coming down in the main base of Kane too, so aggression coming from all angles here. But DeMusliM coming off a little bit better. We should be able to pick off this hatchery now, which means that this place in the 6th o'clock position is rather essential for Kane to just stay in this game, because while he may have forced a bit of damage at this 3rd and put to lift up, it can obviously go back there. And with the aid of those mules, DeMusliM is going to be able to keep his economy going pretty damn steady and really rather good. So for the moment, Marines just going to be running their way back, going to be just coming and checking in, and hey, like, let's make sure these Mutalisks don't do too much more. Widow Mines getting placed around just in the hope that they'll get some lucky hits off pretty damn quick. But all in all, this is, in terms of resources lost, a fairly equal game. Only about just over 1,000 more resources lost by Kane compared to DeMusliM, which, being a Zerg player with a Baneling heavy focus, that's to be expected unless things were going very well for you. So this is still very similar. DeMusliM has lost a couple more workers, or is slightly low on workers, even though he's killed a lot more, and that's due to Kane just droning up quite heavily behind this. So he's still up at the 70+ mark where he wants to be. DeMusliM down to 50 SCVs, which actually isn't a problem because he's playing a bio composition, which means minerals are what he really requires, and he's got a good bank there. He's also got the mules, so he can afford to lose a couple of SCVs, which has the benefit of freeing up supply for him, and therefore giving him the option, really quite simply, to sit there and say, well, you know what, I can get more army out on the field. Now, Banelings are wrapping around, get a couple of detonations, quite a few Marauders soaked up, a lot of hits though. Multiple missile turrets are coming down, protecting this planetary fortress, which is a very smart play by DeMusliM there. Lots of bows go down, those Widowmine hits are absolutely huge, but the Ultralisks stay up at the front. The Queens need to start transfusing though to keep them alive, but the energy on the Queens is up, so could have done that a bit quicker. All in all, that was pretty much mutual destruction, apart from the Ultralisks that managed to stay alive, and those Ultralisks staying up absolutely essential because they're very expensive, take a long time to build, but can swing the tide of a battle as we saw there. But those Baneling and Widowmine hits were absolutely insane. They were some of the best Widowmine coverage I've seen in a long time, and really there DeMusliM probably going to be quite happy. He traded relatively equally, but he knows that he should be sitting on a better economy after knocking out the 4th base earlier. And therefore, all looking fairly good for him. Multiple command centers are still coming down. We've already got 4 orbital commands, plus the planetary fortress, plus another command center in production. So this is really here, DeMusliM just saying, get all of the mules. If I get more mules, I can afford to sacrifice more SCVs. And if I sacrifice more SCVs and still have money, I can make more army. And that's really the principle of getting into the later game in TvZ. So really things going quite nicely for DeMusliM. He's just trying to take some trades where he can, kill anything where he can, especially with this more Marauder heavy composition right now. And he needs these Marauders because he needs to be able to deal with the Ultralisks. He needs to be able to deal with the Infestors as quickly as he can. But all he's got to be careful of is a tech switch from Kane. He's got to make sure that he's got a good number of missile turrets around just to defend against the Mutalisks as they start darting. There's a lot of Widow Mines in very scary places here. The Mutalisks are going to be moving in simultaneously at the south position. We do have the ground army making its way forward. Those Widow Mines so close to detonating. This is just incredibly tense for these Mutalisks. All DeMusliM needs is just, like, if he gets a couple of hits off on these Mutas where they get taken out like that, it can be absolutely disastrous for Kane. Loses a good chunk. Simultaneously though, we do have a nice little move in here. Some fungal growths are coming down, but there's just so much infantry that the Ultras, the Queens, they're forced back. The Banelings didn't get the detonations they need, but there's some great fungal growth, and the Banelings will be able to close up that distance. DeMusliM losing nearly all of his army, and Kane still with a good amount standing. Unfortunately, he lost all of his Ultras, but he's making 5 more. He spent his bank, he's going good for it. The Mutalisks still trying to just dart around, able to try and pick up a couple of these Widow Mines, but with 2 next to each other, one will detonate at you no matter how quickly you focus them down, and that means that a couple more Mutalisks did die. The Mutaflock down at only 8 for the time being, but more static defense being added. DeMusliM desperate to get as much as he can, and sneaky little Widow Mine came in there, which is why we're now seeing a Spore Cooler getting made. But still, this is one of these games where it's getting slightly out of control for both players, where they can trade equally, but neither player really getting the advantage. Kane losing slightly more at the moment, but that's just because he lost the Ultras. He's got those back up again, but Kane's money is a bit low, and that's my concern, because while he's got these bases around, DeMuslim's on equal bases. He's got the mules too, he's got a good bank, and he's constantly producing. They're both near maxed out again. They're both sitting at the 3-3 upgrades. Very, very equal. So which way does it go? Well, this is where it all comes down to who can get the better engagement, who can actually get those Baneling connections, the Widow Mine hits up, the better attack arcs, the flanks. That's what's going to decide how this game goes. Some Widow Mines are trying to fire up as quickly as they can. They're going to get some big detonations off on quite a few Zerglings, but not as many as you may hope. The fungal growth though really making a big difference, allowing the Banelings to close up the distance, but the Ultralisks just getting annihilated by the sheer volume of infantry that are still down. Another fungal growth will hit. DeMusliM pushing forward. I hope he hasn't overextended for the time being, but Kane, he is still fungling from the high ground there. This one lone Ultralisk getting transfused, but it will not be enough. Gets taken down, and that takes the Ultralisk count down to just only 1. 4 more are in production for Kane back at home, but they're going to take quite a while to get out onto the field. DeMusliM pulls back once again. That was another good trade for DeMusliM. Again, forcing his opponent to lose 1,000 or so more resources than he did previously. So anytime you get these cost-effective trades while you're still mining at an equal rate to your opponent, that's good. Kane does have the gas advantage, but as I previously mentioned, for DeMusliM, it's all about the minerals. He's got such a mineral-heavy army, which is why he can't trade that amazingly well. It's always worth looking for any kind of unusual tech switches that are going to be coming out. People have experimented with, like, mass Raven play, going into battle cruisers, which makes you an instant cast hero, but yeah, this is all looking okay. We've got a couple more Mutalisks just looking around. The Mutalisk flock down to only 4 though, and there isn't really any gas or minerals being spent in getting more Mutalisks because they're somewhat redundant in this stage of the game with so many Widow Mines out and so many missile turrets on the field. There's actually 8 missile turrets scattered around, although the majority are by that planetary fortress. Now DeMusliM is starting to make his way forward, trying to find a nice opportunity window for attack. The Widow Mines just leapfrogging their way in, doesn't want to get caught off guard, because that's the one thing that could make this game go very badly for DeMusliM, especially with the fungal growths that are available. All it takes is your army clumped up on a good fungal, and then suddenly you're going to have bad times. Widow Mine hits are going to start going down. They detonate a lot of these Banelings. A single lone Ultralisk at the front here is going to be able to get some om-nom times going on though, because these units trying to start a step back, and a lot of the medevacs got caught there. If only another fungal could have gone down, that would have been disastrous for DeMusliM. But now the momentum swinging in Kane's direction, still pretty much equal in terms of the supply, but a lot of this army stayed alive, and well, that's the big thing. It was only really the Banelings that went down there. DeMusliM, he's clawing his way up. He's slightly up in supply, but only by a fractionally small amount. And Overlord going down will supply block Kane, and that's a bit of an oversight at this stage of the game. You should have plenty of Overlords sitting there. So Kane can't actually produce for the time being. There's still a good number of these Widow Mines scattered about, ready to get big hits off. But what do you do if you are now Kane? How do you engage this? Well, the answer is just, well, use a couple of infested Terrans, try and soak up any Widow Mine hits that could be coming in, and then you go for it. The fungal growths are going down, but Widow Mines detonating from all directions. The Infestors charging forward to the front lines, which isn't ideally where they want to be, but they do get some great fungal growths down, and once again, Kane plows through these Ultralisks, just bombing their way through everything. 5 more on their way through, already up at 9. That is an astoundingly high number of Ultras, and the Marauder count just isn't there to combat it for the time being. There's only 9 Marauders. There's Speedlings bouncing about like over-energetic, deadly Labradors, but this is still starting to level out, looking good for Kane. He's of course got this base up in the top right, but not for much longer. The fact that he's been mining from it is nothing but helpful for him. It's meant that he's just sneaked in a bit more income. DeMusliM currently mining no Vespian at all, even though he's got a bit banked up. He's got to be careful. Losing medevacs now would be absolutely disastrous for him. Meanwhile, Kane, he's maxed. He's building up a bank again. He's getting ready to basically resupply should he need to. He's sneaking forward with those Ultras. Scans are coming down, taking a quick look, going like, okay, where are you? These 1 lone Marauder and 1 lone Marine busy picking away at creep tumors. But now with Marines up on the high ground, without the creep tumors there, they can't be seen. The spines can't go a poking. Widow Mines just detonating everywhere, but unfortunately not dealing much damage up against these Ultralisks, and that means DeMusliM, he's got to be very cautious. He's still not remaxed yet. He does have an equalish army supply just due to a much lower SCV count, but these Ultras, these Speedlings, they're starting to really get into stupidly high numbers, and DeMusliM's force getting a little bit splintered. A few good Widow Mine hits go off there, but mainly onto the Ultralisks, so don't deal that much damage. The Queens and Infestors sitting near the back, they've got to be ready, especially Queens for the Transfusers. That's where really the money is. The cost-efficient trades can start coming from Kane, but Kane bouncing around with a couple more Speedlings, because Speedlings can run over mines as long as they keep going. Unlike that, but keeping an eye out, making sure that if there were any more Zerglings there, or any more Widow Mines there, no more than the essential number of Zerglings would die. This Orbit Command taking some damage. DeMusliM can lift it though. He should be aware that it needs lifting, especially since he's pulled units over, but doesn't he actually lose that Orbit Command? I'm not sure where his attention was for that moment in time, but he's now massively oversaturated at this basin with just so many mules there. It's going to get mined out very quickly. The top base, the 12 o'clock position, also mining out. DeMusliM, he's not starved of money yet. Gas is getting very low though, I hasten to add. And, well, Kane, he's a bit far out of position here, if I'm honest, but he's going in with the burrowed Infestors, and mass infested Terran play coming down. A couple of Widow Mine hits, but still, those eggs are going to hatch. DeMusliM pushing in. He's going to lose a lot here. Tries to pull out a couple of those mules, but everything gets annihilated. Well, these Marines, these Marauders, they do manage to take out the hatchery. This is now problems for Kane, but equally, He's managed to kill a good number of SCVs, but there's also the drop from DeMusliM coming in here, cleaning up drones. This is a very hard fought match, but the ultra count is still up at 14 ultras and 14 infestors. Very powerful play. DeMusliM, he just still doesn't seem to have an answer to it. Yes, he's taking out these bases, but he's losing base of his own. His income starting to get a little bit problematic, but then so is Kane's. Kane is maining pretty much nothing at the moment. 160 minerals per minute. That's very low, but the advantage for Kane is he's maxed out, so he's still got a great economy. He's still got a good bank there. He can't quite remax, but he can get some reinforcements if required. But got to be so careful of things like this. Ninja trap of Widow Mines, that would annihilate a good group of Ultralisks if it went in nicely. And of course, every time you start getting those free little shots of damage off, you're going to be very happy as a Terran player. But all those fungal buds nearly were absolutely magical, and there we go. Huge fungal comes in. Unfortunately, a good number of Widow Mines there are triggering on an Ultra, but not on anything else. Bane's rolling forward. Kane, from multiple angles, pushing in the Ultras, just not caring. And now the Planetary Fortress, one of the last hopes for DeMusliM, taking all of the damage. The SCVs getting annihilated. The Planetary Fortress falls, and Kane now in a very good spot. He's still going for it. He's still got speedlings running around, chasing down the odd unit here and there, the stragglers that try to break for freedom, and that means that, of course, DeMusliM starting to look in a bit of a problematic position. He's down to only 21 SCVs. His income very low. GG is called, and there we see Kane win an incredibly good 36-minute game. I hope you did enjoy that. If you did, make sure that if you're on YouTube, you like the video, leave a cool comment and subscribe. And if you are on my Twitch channel, make sure that you follow this channel and stay tuned.